I am trying to figure out exactly how much progress was made on some key issues in D.C. this week. I'll get up to speed and take you along with me on that ride. It's the middle of March, and more growers are growing more anxious to get in the field. Biofuels issues are still front and center. And what's the deal with the rest of the funding bills?
From the final Friday of official calendar winter via Farm Journal broadcast, this is AgriTalk. This morning, it's our Friday free-for-all with panelist Jim Wiesemeyer, and we welcome Tom Sell. I'm handsome newsman Davis Michaelsen. Now, welcome the host of AgriTalk, Chip Flory.
All right, Davis. Hey, thank you so much. A beautiful day in
Gorgeous.
Northeast Iowa. Sun is shining. The sky is blue. The temperatures are warming up. It's not going to be as warm as it was earlier this week, but it's going to be warm enough for the middle of March, dude.
We will absolutely take it. And I got to say, my daffodils say, yeah, it's warm enough. They are gorgeous. They're out. They're out, baby.
They've bloomed?
Yes. Yes, they've bloomed. Yep.
That's
happened yesterday.
That is
I
crazy.
know.
We've got some tulips around the house up here, or I should say around the bunker. By the time they bloom, you better be in the timber looking for morels, too.
Well, I did take your advice, and I found a few more dandelions. I just popped the head right off of those babies.
There you go.
Just pop it off. Yeah.
You got to take care of those early.
Can't let them spread.
My grandma Agnes would be proud of you.
Oh, I didn't do the salted earth kind of policy that she's known for, but that's good.
Oh yeah, no, you're going to take care of those. If you're going to go through the effort, you're going to make sure that you only have to do it once. No question about that. Welcome to AgriTalk. I'm Chip. Glad that you are with us on this Friday morning. How in the world did that happen?
I don't know, man. Feels good though. Feels like a Friday.
Yeah. I'm ready. Feels like a Friday coming off a Cyclone victory.
Oh, was there a victory?
There was a victory last night, yes. Cyclones over K-State in the Big 12 tournament, so things continue. We've got Baylor tonight. See how that continues.
How do you like your chances?
I like them.
You got them?
I like them, yep. Okay. They're playing they played a whole lot better last night than they did last Saturday when K-State stomped them in Manhattan.
Okay.
So, and then the stomping was basically returned close to, I think it was a 19-point victory, something like that.
Oh, okay.
So,
even Steven.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope K-State gets into the tournament, into the NCAA tournament. That's a good team. It really is. I hope they get into the tournament. We're going to know a whole lot more about that come Monday morning too. So, all right, let's get to the news. What do you got, buddy?
I'm going to start with the National Weather Service. Scattered strong to severe thunderstorms and excessive rainfall are possible from the Texas Hill Country eastward across the southeastern United States today, and the Texas Hill Country into South Texas on Saturday. A winter storm will produce waves of heavy snow in higher elevations of the Southwest and the Four Corners region into the weekend. I think pretty quiet across the Midwest.
Yeah, it's very quiet across the Midwest right now, but you look down into the Southeast, East Texas, northern Louisiana, southeast Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, they're all starting to get hit with some heavy storms.
Well, Chip, Senators Chuck Grassley of Iowa and John Thune of South Dakota joined colleagues in urging U.S. Trade Representative Katherine Tai and Ag Secretary Tom Vilsack to improve ag export opportunities. They joined a group of senators in writing a letter to Vilsack and Tai acknowledging that trade fluctuates because of macroeconomic factors and market conditions. But the letter says, quote, however, the current sharp decline in U.S. ag exports is directly attributable to and exacerbated by an unambitious U.S. trade strategy that's failing to meaningfully expand market access or reduce tariff and non-tariff barriers to trade. Chip, we've been saying this for a minute.
Yeah, we certainly have, and this is the first direct comment, at least that I recall, from Grassley and Thune, and from the senators in a direct message to USDA and the U.S. Trade Reps Office that we need to get serious and get some more work done on this.
Well, chip growers have until today, that's March 15, to make an election between ARC and PLC on a crop-by-crop and a farm-by-farm basis and to enroll their farm or farms for the 2024 crop year. Mm-hmm. USDA released a plan that will boost biomass supply chain resiliency for domestic bio-based product manufacturing while also advancing environmental sustainability and market opportunities for small and mid-sized producers. Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack remarked, quote, "The increasing demand for biomass is a golden opportunity to expand markets and create new revenue for American farmers, ranchers, and forest landowners, particularly in rural areas."
Yeah, boy, talk about a cheerleader for the biofuels. There is no question on this. And he understands the issues on this one. He understands that maybe the rest of the Biden administration doesn't fully grasp the opportunities that are in front of them right now with some of the fuels that are available right now. Mm-hmm. So you guys know this. There's a lot of issues that I do not agree with Secretary Vilsack on, but boy, he's right on top of it with the biofuels.
Well, Chip, this week's economic data suggested stagflation and reduced expectations for a June interest rate cut by the Fed. However, the market's bullish sentiment on stable growth, falling inflation, imminent Fed rate cuts, and enthusiasm for artificial intelligence remained largely intact. Despite the market's resilience, the Sevens report says recent economic reports have hinted at a potential slowdown in economic momentum and persistent price pressures challenging the bullish narrative.
Dude, there are some analysts in the market right now that are just kind of, it's almost like they're sitting with amazement looking at this conversation about interest rates and say, wait a minute. No, we were supposed to have 5, 6, 7 cuts this year. Now you're talking about pushing everything back until the second half of the year? That can't be. You guys look at the data. That's all you got to do. The inflation data is suggesting Fed had better wait.
Well, President Joe Biden said United States Steel Corp should retain American ownership, coming out against the takeover by Japan's Nippon Steel Corp, despite the risk of upsetting a key ally ahead of a state visit next month by the Japanese Prime Minister. In other news, the leader of Yemen's Houthi rebels said they will expand their anti-ship attacks to Israel-linked ships in the Indian Ocean using the Cape of Good Hope route. The Houthis carried out 3 attacks in the Indian Ocean this week, Chip, and they've laid out 3 different conditions for knocking it off, basically, here, and it all goes back to Israel-Gaza.
Oh, absolutely, and it all goes back to 3 very unrealistic, and it ain't going to happen, requests from the Houthis. Yeah. That's the bottom line. It's just this is going to get a whole lot worse.
Yes. And finally here, the National Pork Producers Council announces the World Pork Expo returns on June 5th and 6th to the Iowa State Fairgrounds in Des Moines. The world's largest pork-specific trade show returns with more than 700 booths showcasing the latest and greatest in pork production technology and services. Chip.
Yeah, it's absolutely one of the best gatherings in agriculture. No question about that. All right, we'll be there. We'll be there June 5th through 6th. At the Pork Conference. We've got the free-for-all coming your way next here on AgriTalk.
AgriTalk is brought to you by United Animal Health, where their science allows you to maximize your genetic potential. Learn more at unitedanh.com.
AgriTalk is brought to you by John Deere. For generations before and generations to come, John Deere is part of your farm and your family. Whatever your technology needs, John Deere has the tools to help grow your farm.
Welcome back to AgriTalk. I'm Chip Flory. Glad that you are with us on this Friday morning. That means it's time for a conversation with Jim Wiesemeyer, Tom Sell, Davis Michaelsen. It's called the Free-for-All, Davis. Have you heard of it before?
Yeah, we do it every Friday.
Every Friday?
Every Friday morning.
Really?
You betcha.
Really?
Yeah.
And I think what we do is we just kind of take some of the big happenings of the week and toss them out there and see what see what everybody thinks about what is going on out there.
That's right.
Jim Wiesemeyer, Pro Farmer Policy Analyst. How are you, buddy?
Pretty good. It's spring because my lawn service put all my mulch in, so it's spring now.
It's spring now. Yeah. Yeah, very good. Very good. We're trying to make contact with Tom here, Jim, but in the meantime, I'm looking for a couple of things that I want to get from you that maybe we can wait and see if we can get Tom in here on the conversation in just a bit. But talk to me about what is the latest on the spending bills. Have some been pushed back even further now?
The biggest one is the Homeland Security bill. It looks like there are some, those will include border issues, and you know how sensitive that is. Now, the latest in town here now on that is they're considering a stopgap funding bill for that department, Homeland Security, through the end of September. That means they're really going to punt on that one. Now, the other ones are close to getting done, so a lot of work over the weekend. So we're going to see, because they have the midnight March 22nd deadline, Chip.
Can they pick and choose like this?
Yeah, they can put that in the package in the bill. That they can vary it.
Okay, so the Homeland Security funding gets pushed back. That's got to be part of the reason for that. Has got to be the dislike of Secretary Mayorkas, right?
Well, that, and they're negotiating bills relative to border security. Remember, there's been a difference between the chambers on that one, and we're just too close to the election on this one. So they could still come up with a 11th and a half hour surprise, Chip, but I doubt it.
Okay. In the meantime, really hasn't done anything to slow down progress on the next fiscal year, because the president has put his budget out. President Biden has put his budget out. We talked with Paul Neiffer earlier this week about some of the tax considerations that farmers need to be aware of. It's a budget bill, but boy, it's loaded up with new taxes.
Well, that shows you what would occur if the Democrats control after November 5th elections. That's clear. That's about the only solid thing you can say on that, Chip. But for the near term here, the current tax cut bill, remember, that was widely passed the House, but it's having trouble in the Senate, where I don't think it'll fly now, because they're just too many Republicans in the Senate saying, wait a minute, we want some changes.
Okay. Normally you would expect that a bill that features some tax cuts would get more support from both parties. What's the holdup?
Well, the holdup is, again, the Senate doesn't want to go along totally with the House passed bill, which passed overwhelmingly in a bipartisan vote. They just want to put their stamp on it, and there's some concerns about the House language on child tax credit provisions. That's the gotta have Democrat provision. So there's been some counter offers. So we could still see a tax cut bill yet this year, but boy, the clock is ticking on this one.
Yeah, no kidding. So we had Representative Sam Graves from Missouri on the show yesterday, Jim. He's chairman of the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee there in the House. And they have moved, the House has passed a bill that is it's to facilitate the grant programs that help some of the local utilities cover that last mile in getting fast internet out into rural areas. They've passed this bill before. When it gets to the Senate, it runs into issues. And I said, what's the holdup? Who votes no for this one, Congressman? Was basically what I asked him. He says, well, it's a matter of scheduling. And I argued that it's really a matter of leadership, because Schumer doesn't want to put anything that's coming from the House that might pass the Senate in front of the Senate for a vote.
Well, I don't know the specifics. I'd have to look at that bill, Chip, but I will tell you that we're throwing billions and hundreds of billions of dollars at this internet thing. I think the story a few years from now will be seen as a chunk of that has been wasted.
Through federal programs? Money's been wasted? Oh, my goodness, Jim. I'm telling you. All right. Let's move on to a couple of other issues that are coming right up here, including the message from Senator Grassley and Senator Thune to U.S. Trade Rep Catherine Tai, Ag Secretary Vilsack, about kind of tried to give them a kick in the shorts when it comes to trade issues, didn't they?
Yeah. Also, as other countries ink, new trade agreements while we're sitting on our hands here, but the Biden administration is not giving any. You'll recall that USDA Secretary Vilsack at Commodity Classic kind of threw out the blurb that hey, Congress hasn't approved an extension of Trade Promotion Authority (TPA). Yeah. That's fast track that allows a new trade agreement to be approved on an up and down vote only. Chip, no amendments. However, the administration has to formally request a TPA extension, and they have not. So bottom line on trade policy, it's not going to change. We're going to have to see after November 5th elections. And I'm going to keep repeating that over the next few months because this town will be almost frozen until that occurs.
Yep. Jim, the other thing on trade issues, if we would put this issue straight in front of Vilsack, his response, I'm sure, would be, wait a second, we're just doing it differently. It doesn't mean that it's any less effective. The trade missions that we've got scheduled, the sit down, the conversations, look at the progress we've made here. Look at the progress we've made with India. Look at he would argue that the Biden administration's trade policies, trade plan, is more effective than what it's being given credit for. I don't think so, but he would argue that.
Some of that is true, but please discuss a $30 billion deficit for U.S. ag exports.
Right.
That's like screaming. Now they'll say, "Well, that's the impact of a higher dollar." Don't believe it. Don't believe it because we've had a strong dollar before, and we've always had an agricultural trade surplus. So also look at Brazil. Look at Brazil in the fact that they've been soybean top exporter for years now. This will be the second straight year for corn. They'll be the world's largest cotton exporter. Again, we're uncompetitive in the trade policy arena.
Yeah. And then there are other things that happen when it comes to global trade that just makes the row crop producers, the small grain producers, the cattle producers, hog producers think that USDA is disconnected. And one of the big ones there is okaying and going forward with beef imports from Paraguay when it's been a decade since they last had somebody on the ground in Paraguay taking a look at the foot and mouth disease situation, Jim.
Yeah, you better be careful on that one for sure. Again, you have to have increased market access, and that means lowering the tariffs in a number of countries, but they're not discussing that, Chip. And no. it gets into where former President Trump is saying, look at reciprocal. If he gets in as president, he's saying, he's tired of countries withholding their imports of U.S. products. So that's why he wants reciprocal. Look at the case of TikTok. Do you think China would allow our browsers to go into China? No way. No way. That's exactly right. And the reciprocal issue is a big one
with AgriTalk listeners. I know that for a fact. All right, we're in the middle of the free-for-all. Jim Wiesemeyer, Pro Farmer Policy Analyst, Davis and me, here on AgriTalk.
Time for Markets Now with the experts from Pro Farmer.
Joining us now, Pro Farmer editor Brian Grady. Beej, we've got the wheat market under some pressure again today, but that corn trade, we're working to the upside this morning. What's going on?
Yeah, so we had another daily corn sale.
Okay.
Weekly sales this week were above 1 million tons again. I think that's like 7 out of the past 9 weeks or something around there. And the 2 daily sales the past 2 days. And so we're starting to see some demand generate there. And the export side of things has kind of been quiet for corn, quietly surprising, I guess. And you factor in some favorable ethanol news, and the demand picture isn't as bad for corn as what some believe it to be. But we need to see that encourage the funds to cover more short positions.
Yeah, and we need to continue to get some good news on the demand side for corn if we're going to keep this thing moving to the upside. It's been a nice recovery in the soy complex. Little bit of a setback today in beans and meal.
Yeah, so much like the corn market, I mentioned earlier in the week, the 40-day moving average kind of stalled out buyer interest. The same has been the case in soybeans, nearby soybeans. And like you said, they're under a little bit of price pressure, about 2 to 5 cents lower here at mid-morning. The meal market is also trading to the downside, so meal and soybeans continue to trade together. And then soy oil is just a little bit firmer on some spreading action.
All right. Cattle complex trying to get back some of yesterday's losses.
Yeah, ugly close yesterday, but higher cash cattle trade and could challenge the all-time record, so we'll see where that all ends up. But just modest gains in live cattle. Feeders are moderately higher, and the hog market's moving to the upside.
Good stuff. Have a great weekend, Brian. Pro Farmer editor Brian Grady, Markets Now.
Opinions expressed on AgriTalk do not necessarily reflect the views of Farm Journal Broadcasting, affiliate stations, or sponsors. The truth is hard to come by these days, unless you listen to AgriTalk.
Welcome back to AgriTalk. I'm Chip. Glad that you're with us for the free-for-all. Davis is along. Jim Wiesemeyer, Pro Farmer Policy Analyst. And joining us now, Tom Sell, Combest Sell and Associates. Tom, it's great
Chip.
to talk with you again. How are you, man?
Oh, I'm glad to be back. I'm doing well, thanks.
Good. Glad that you are here because we need to figure out what is going on in the Senate with the Farm Bill. We've heard word that Chairwoman Stabenow has basically said, listen, I've got what I want on nutrition. I've got what I want on conservation. Leave the rest alone. Let's move forward. That's all that we're going to do. Then we hear that, and we heard this on Monday morning from Senator Grassley on the show, that Stabenow took Grassley to the side and said, listen, I still want to pursue this farm bill. We still need to continue to work on this and get it done, including Title I. What's the situation, Tom?
And I tell you, Title I is the driver in this farm. The whole premise of this farm bill is you got to shore up the safety net. We've had this record 6 years looking back of ad hoc assistance and disaster bills, all an indictment of the current farm bill, right? It's saying the current farm bill is not doing the job. We've got to do something extra. And ad hoc assistance, whether it's MFP, CFAP, the disaster programs year after year, are always too little too late. They don't provide the certainty. They don't leverage the dollars in the rural economy that they could if they were baked into a farm bill that provides some level of certainty and reliability where farmers can make investment and build for the future. That's the whole premise of the farm bill, to provide kind of a foundation. And the whole reason for getting this farm bill done is to improve that safety net, which has been wanting and lacking. And so I think that's why Stabenow's talk about, okay, well, I don't really care about that. I'm just going to put up a hard defense around the IRA funds and the nutrition spending. Don't touch that. It's kind of coming across in the country as in, we don't really care about the farm safety net portion. Bozeman obviously talks about we need more farm in the farm bill. That's his way of saying that, the only way a farm bill goes forward on his watch is if we're making a significant investment into the Title I, Title 11, crop insurance, farm safety net portions. But I tell you, though, stepping back, the whole thing is, and I think this is kind of the feeling about Washington these days. We want a little less talk, a lot more action, baby. Yep. I think to quote a country song, there's a lot of rhetoric, and there's just not a lot of movement. And that's true of both the Senate and the House right now. I'm hoping, Chip, that when they come back after Easter in April, that we start to see some real action, some ideas actually put on the table where we can kick the tires and look at it and say, is this going to meet the need out there in farm country?
Right. Yeah, float some balloons. Let's take a look at what these might be and let the real world take a look at the thoughts and whether or not they make sense or not. Wiesemeyer, what is this looming conservation cliff that you are writing about?
I'm not quite sure. Cliff.
The report discusses the potential for a bipartisan solution addressing a looming conservation cliff resulting from the IRA. It's the IRA funds.
Oh, that's the Stabenow angle.
Okay.
She on one side, I think she's correct. She wants to put that IRA funding in the Farm Bill baseline because it will extend that funding further than what the IRA mandate says. That's number one. But the cliff is that she doesn't want it to, as we've already discussed, she doesn't want the Republicans to pick $13 billion out of that for the Title I safety net. I think I agree with Tom. After Easter, the word is that G.T. Thompson, House Ag Committee Chairman, is going to put out a chairman's mark. I want him to show us the money. Yeah. Where is he going to get that money? The billions of dollars needed to increase those reference prices. And the way that they're going to do it probably will have almost everyone, if not all of the Democrats saying no. Am I not right, Tom?
I think you're exactly, I don't know. I mean, the reality is it's easy when there's no kind of alternative out there to say, no, don't touch the conservation, don't touch the nutrition funds. Don't even look at it. It kind of reminds you of that Spinal Tap scene where Nigel Tufnell is saying that knob goes to 11. No, don't even touch it. Don't look at it. But once you actually have something on paper, the reality of, okay, this is the way we want to take some of these funds that might better be used to shore up the safety net. And look, Jim and Chip, I think they're going to have additional funds as well. They're going to have to take some of the reality of the past, i.e. ad hoc assistance, and say, look, to build a better safety net and to really eliminate the need to have this ad hoc going forward, we have to make some investment. It's fiscally responsible. You'll spend less money in the long term. You'll provide more certainty to farmers. It's better for the taxpayers, better for the farmers. But you're going to have to claim some of that kind of funds that might otherwise be spent. I think that's kind of the budget work that G.T. Thompson is doing right now and is very earnest about it. But there's going to have to be some new money in addition to kind of the best use of the funds that are currently in the pot for the Farm Bill, and that might include to some extent nutrition and conservation funds that have had this dramatic increase in the baseline. I do think they'll try and get past this conservation cliff. That's a great word for it. The question is, can NRCS spend all these IRA funds in the next 2 years, or are they better to spread those out so they can actually put them into good long-term investments in EQIP and CSP? In the RCP, the Conservation Partnerships Program. All these programs are really popular and really good, but I think Bozeman was trying to lay the case with the report this week that we'll be able to utilize them better if we spread that out over time and make long-term kind of permanent investments into the safety net on the conservation side. So a lot of good talk around that. I'm just, like Jim said, ready to see a draft and let's start hammering on this thing.
Yeah, because you got to show the money. You got to show where you're going to get the money. I do think that Stabenow and others are correct by saying we need to improve the crop insurance program relative to the area-wide programs, the SCO and the ECO, because if you really improve those by increasing incentives, 15 points or so, that lessens the need for ad hoc disaster, doesn't it, Tom?
You bet. Yeah. John Hoven and others, Debbie Stabenow has talked about this kind of investment in crop insurance. So I think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, crop insurance is such an amazing dynamic, infrastructure that's out there that can provide real time certainty to farmers. It does have that leveraging effect in the ag economy. So, crop insurance, I think, is seen as kind of it's the Cadillac infrastructure that has been built over time. And so it seems to me right now that most of the attention is, what investments can be made in crop insurance to kind of help farmers, push them into achieving a higher level of coverage for their farm. And that's where those area-wide policies just make a lot of sense. And some of the other kind of aggregate policies. There's one that's in the making right now that kind of aggregates across commodities on a farm, tries to incentivize having a more diverse mix of crops on the farm, but providing an umbrella coverage. It's called CLIP. There are just some really exciting things that are coming to the fore through the federal crop insurance program, and importantly through kind of the development angle. It's called Section 508H of that Federal Crop Insurance Act, where academics, where interest groups and commodity groups can invest in creating a policy that's going to work better for their particular area or crop. So that's a really important authority, and it has allowed for the development of this crop insurance. Look at livestock and what's being done there. So it's really allowed for the development of that program over time.
Yeah, no doubt. Okay, you guys go back 8, 9, 10 months, and House Chairman Thompson talking about finding ways to get creative with the funding. And then go back to November with Secretary Vilsack saying, listen, if they want more funding for Title I, I can tell you where to get it. They just need to go to the CCC. We'll make sure that this all happens. And now, today, let's move the funds from the Inflation Reduction Act over to the Farm Bill and broaden the base. This is about as creative a group or efforts to expand funding for the Farm Bill as I've ever seen. Am I off base on that, guys?
Tom, where do you come out on the CCC angle?
Well, in a way, Secretary Vilsack was, any farm bill is a way that Congress says we're going to obligate the CCC. CCC is just kind of the bank. It's the funding section of the USDA for these types of programs. So what he was saying was not that new, but he was basically saying, look, I'll be creative with you. You can just tell me and we'll stand up something. They've done the same thing on some of the foreign market development through this RAP program. And that won praise from Bozeman and Stabenow and the other GT and David Scott as well. Because it kind of took some pressure off the Farm Bill by obligating those funds out of the CCC. So I think the idea is good. I love the creativity. I think all the leaders deserve commendation for that. I will say, the president's budget came out this week, which is the budget blueprint. And while kudos to Secretary Vilsack and USDA, none of kind of some of the old historic. As has been done in the past, cuts in the system have been made. A lot of times that administration budget blueprint is just kind of a false document that tries to get to a balanced budget at a time. They didn't do that. They didn't make any cuts. Okay. But also in that document, it also didn't obligate CCC or provide. Yeah,
Tom, you know what? We'll talk more about the president's budget when we come back. We got the president's budget. We got some biofuel issues. And then we got to talk interest rates next.
AgriTalk is brought to you by Smart Nutrition MAP plus MST, fertilizer designed with seed safety in mind. Smart Nutrition MAP plus MST is engineered with a lower salt index. Learn how it protects your seed at smartnutritionmst.com.
Welcome back to AgriTalk. I'm Chip Flory. Glad that you're with us on this Friday morning for the free-for-all. Jim Wiesemeyer, Pro Farmer Policy Analyst. Tom Sell, Combest Sell and Associates, and Davis, newsman, handsome newsman. Davis Michaelsen is with us today. Tom, at the end of the last segment, you were making a point about the president's budget. Take us through that conversation again.
Well, it's all this talk about, Secretary Vilsack saying, well, just use the CCC, rely on me. The problem with that is, when Congress writes a bill to obligate the CCC, they get scored for that by CBO. And so this is the essence of the problem with the writing of this farm bill, the money problem that's around it. Secretary Vilsack has kind of made this claim of, just use CCC or rely on me. But the only point I was making, and generally I have a lot of positive things. I think the Secretary of the USDA did a nice job in their budget. They didn't kind of do any draconian cuts, but I would note that they did not make an allocation for the use of the CCC as Secretary Vilsack has been suggesting. So it's just kind of an interesting little nerdy tidbit there.
Exactly. Okay. All right. Jim, the Renewable Fuels Association is getting word out that the Biden administration is expected to unveil a final version of one of its final rules for next week, the Clean Car Rule, that as it stands right now, RFA is saying that it's going to incentivize that 2/3 of new passenger vehicles sold in 2032 are running on electricity. It looks like maybe Wednesday this next week for EPA to make that announcement.
Well, that's the word, but again, you can put something as an announcement, but the real marketplace is saying the mandated move to electric vehicles is going backwards, not forwards, Jim.
Yeah. Tom, do you pick up that lack of enthusiasm for the EVs, especially for those that are looking to replace an EV?
I do. The marketplace is marketplace. You can look at sales and all the news lately has been negative on that front, and just the practical reality of it. It's kind of like the newness is worn off, and now you have some just real problems if you're an EV owner. Hybrids are growing and other things. There are a lot of ways the administration, I think, can accomplish some of the goals to get to lower emissions. But man, I just don't know if EV is going to be the answer.
Right. And Jim, there's roadblocks in front of year-round availability of E15. So we've got some answers to help the Biden administration and environmentalists advance their emissions goals by adopting higher blends. That's already there. That's already in place. It's available right now. But year-round availability of E15, it seems to me it makes perfect sense. But boy, there's a lot of headwinds to this, isn't there?
Well, you've got Senator Tom Carper, Delaware. He's on the Environment and Public Works Committee. He's just saying no to this right now. So it's hard to get it through the legislative process. Tom, do you agree?
I do. You obviously have some very strong advocates working, and this may be something that kind of ends up in an end of the year bill. But it is a practical reality right now. What ethanol has done for this nation is just truly amazing. I say that as a Texan, and I know Jim likes to, even my former boss Combest and business partner was always a big advocate for ethanol. One, it's homegrown, and you just have this ability to blend at higher rates that does good for our air quality and for the local economies. It is such an easy answer that. I have a lot of faith in those very strong advocates, bipartisan advocates in the Congress. They've shown an ability to accomplish their goals over time, and I think they're going to keep pressing just because this is such an easy and practical and good answer.
Yeah.
So I'm bullish on it.
Yep, got to keep pushing. Got to keep pushing, and you've got senators like Carper that are, they're doing their job. They're looking out for their constituents, right, Jim? I mean, it's the
refiners.
The refiners in Delaware. It's the reason that they got elected and to begin with was to protect their constituents' best interests.
But what's going to help the E15, if not E20, in the future will be the movement toward this, carbon credits, Chip.
Yeah.
And if hopefully a corn-based ethanol qualifies, and to what degree, which I think it will, this will add, I think, pressure and momentum to get year around, because it just makes sense from a scoring position, if nothing else, on the eventual coming out to meet the GREET timeline
model.
Yep. GREET.
Yep. Got to get this GREET model, the final adjustments done and in place so that we can clear the path for corn-based ethanol into the sustainable aviation fuel market and other low carbon applications for fuels. But it's some of these environmentalists are in such a weird, they find themselves in a weird position, you guys, because these are the same groups that have been harping against corn-based ethanol forever. But they're also saying, hey, we got to have 3 billion gallons of sustainable aviation fuel available to the market by the year 2030. Well, that's not all that far off. And the only way that you're going to find enough feedstock is if you go to farmers to get the product.
Absolutely.
And
you can trust the farmers. I'll say that. We have a great record of stepping up and getting it done.
That's right.
All the practical kind of barriers that are out there, we overcome them, and that's the beauty of the rural America and the American farmers and
Beautiful.
The industry like ethanol that they support.
Beautiful. Let's end it with that. Tom, great stuff. Thanks, buddy.
Great to talk to you, Jim.
You bet.
Great to hear your voice.
Sure.
Tom Sell, Combest Sell and Associates. Jim Wiesemeyer, Pro Farmer Policy Analyst. Have a great weekend, Jim.
Sure, Chip.
Davis, we will talk to you this afternoon when we've got a conversation with Jim Matthews from Ever.Ag here on AgriTalk.